Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be covering our 14th video in the series, Businesses from A to Z. So, yesterday, you guys already know we covered the letter M for Microsoft. So, in today's video, it's going to be the letter N, so you guessed it, N for Nike. So, Nike was founded January 25th, 1964 in Eugene, Oregon. So the two co-founders of Nike. The two co-founders of Nike are Bill Bowerman and Phil Knight. So Phil Knight, he enlisted in the military and served 1 year, and was on Army Reserve for about 7 years. He then went to the Stanford Graduate School of Business, where he made for a small business class, which his small business class was a paper Japan versus German. German cameras versus Japanese cameras, Japanese sports shoes versus German sports shoes. So he had a small paper about that, and his ambition was into running shoes. So he graduated from a master's degree in business administration from Stanford in 1962. Knight set out on a trip around the world after graduation, during which he made a stop in Kobe. Kobe is a city in Japan. In November 1962. It was there that he discovered Tiger brand running shoes. So this was where he first got interest in shoes. Kobe by the Oxford Co. Impressed by the quality of the low-costing shoes, Knight bought some. Knight called Mr. Onkoshi, who agreed to meet him. By the end of the meeting, Knight had secured Tiger's distribution rights for the western United States. The first Tiger samples would take more than a year to be shipped to Knight, so that was a long time wait. During that time, he found a job as an accountant in Portland. When Knight finally received those shoe samples a year later, he then mailed 2 pairs to Bowerman at the University of Oregon, hoping that they could both gain and be co-partners and sail an influential endorsement. To Knight's surprise, Bowerman not only ordered the Tiger shoes, but also offered to become a partner with Knight and provided product design ideas. The two men agreed to partnership by handshake on January 25th, 1964. This was the real start of Nike. The birth date of Blue Ribbon Sports, the company would later become Nike. Nike's first sales were made out of now storied green Plymouth Valiant automobile and track meets across the Pacific Northwest. By 1969, these early sales made Knight and his accountant job. They had to work full time, so this was their full time job. So Bill Bowerman was actually a accountant. Bill Bowerman was actually a coach, and he had to quit the coach job because this was his full-time job, and Knight had to leave his accountant job because this also was his full-time job. So Jeff Johnson's Nike first employee suggested that calling the firm Nike, but then all the other people in the U.S. were interpreting as Nike, and it just grew on that. And Blue Ribbon Sports was subsequently renamed Nike in 1917. So now some information on Bill Bowerman. So Bill Bowerman, he was an American coach, right? He had a handshake agreement to Phil Knight, who had been a miler under him in 1950s, to start athletic footwear distribution. So obviously he still kept in touch with his team after, like I said, they had to quit his job to go to the Blue Ribbon Sports, which was now renamed Nike or Nike. So he still kept in touch with the team. So the first shoe that they made, how they made the sole of the shoe or the back of the shoe, what they actually did, it's a funny story. They took melted rubber and they actually put it in a waffle iron and made it and cut out a mold of someone's foot. So they put a mold of someone's foot, and then they cut out that rubber. So that's how you see at the bottom of shoes, if you see at some Nike shoes, not all of them, but some Nike shoes, they have those little like waffle patterns, or like those little squares by squares by squares. So that's how they got that pattern. Obviously now they don't use waffle irons, but they use that type of mechanism, right? Heating rubber. Right. right? They use that melted rubber, they heat it to make it, more solidified. They still use that type of mechanism today, but not as a waffle iron, as a different thing where they make different shoe sizes and not use a mold of someone's foot. So in 1950s, he set out to start an footwear distribution, also for his team. So Knight managed the business end part of the partnership, while Bowerman experienced with the improvements in the athletic footwear design. So as we know, that Phil Knight, he was like an accountant, right? So he knew most of the financial stuff, how to do stuff right in the financial part of the business. But Bowerman actually knew These were why these two men, boyhood friends, were just such a good co-founders of the company, because Bowerman knew what he had to do to make the footwear better, because he was an athletic coach. So Bowerman actually stayed in Eugene, keeping his coaching job at the University of Oregon a couple years later. So for 5 years ago, he actually quit his job, and then a couple years later, he actually got his job back at the University of Oregon, while Knight operated the main office in Portland. So it was founded in Eugene, but now the main office is headquartered in Portland. So Nike has grown so much to be how Nike is in today's day. All the way from Bowerman's design, he led to the creation of running shoes, and then that would be ultimately named Nike, all the way to work shoes, to just casual shoes, to inside shoes. So Nike has many different products. So let's use keeping Nike running. So yeah, you guessed it. The next section we're going to be covering today is the CEO. So the CEO. So the CEO of Nike is John Donahue. So he started being CEO January 13th, 2020. So recently, in the beginning of this year. So he was born at Illinois on April 30th, 1960. In 1978, he graduated from the New Trier School in Waukena, Illinois. He earned a bachelor's degree in economics from the Dartmouth College, followed by an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business, which was, if you remember, Phil Knight he went to the Stanford Graduate School of Business. So Donahue is from Irish descent. So his parents were both Irish. After his senior year in high school, his father asked him to work in Skitchler Beer Distribution Company. You'll make good money, he said, and it's a sturdy job. It was a union job, and it was the first requirement that he was to join the International Brotherhood of Treat Masters. Before joining eBay, he would work for Bain and Company, a worldwide consulting firm based in Boston. So he rejected his job. He rejected his job offer from his dad, and for 20 years started as an associate consultant and rising to become a firm president and CEO in 1999. In March 2005, he was hired president of eBay's marketplace. His role was to focus on eBay's core business, and which accounts for a large percentage of the company's revenue. So after doing so well in eBay and being the CEO and being the president and all, he then joined Nike as a financial business consultant accountant. So he joined Nike as a very, small, medium-ish business, and then he was announced to see the next CEO of Nike, and succeeded Mark Parker on January 13th, 2020. So he successfully got the job as being the CEO of Nike. So all the way from being the CEO of eBay and doing such great things for eBay, and being the president of eBay and doing a lot of those things, he then worked at Nike, and then a couple years later he became the CEO. He was announced actual CEO in 2019, but then succeeded Mark Parker on January 13th, 2020, the first day that he was being CEO. So Nike is a huge company. Nike has about 150 plus thousand employees. Nike has over 780 million different shoes, not the types of shoes, but they have different shoes in their store line, and they manufacture like almost 800 million shoes per year. Nike is stationed throughout 100 countries, so there's Nike shoes in 100 countries, and they make about $37 million in revenue per year. So some facts and fun facts about Nike. So some fun facts about Nike is that the logo actually came before the name. So usually in a company, the name, they based on the name, they make a logo, right? For example, like let's say FedEx, right? They first made their name and then they made their logo, which says FedEx and has like that secret arrow and all. So usually people they make the name of the company and then make a logo that's based on that name. But this was different. So the swoosh actually only cost them $35 to like make that logo, and the first official Nike shoe was prone to disintegrating. So what this means is that a lot of shoes back then, when they'd step in water and all, like the shoes would like go mucky and old, and like eventually just go away, disappear, like disintegrate, and like the shoes would be made out of acid, like some early shoes. That's when Nike, like, but not Nike. Nike didn't use acid, but some other shoes to keep it, intact and for a long time they use acid. And when it hits like wet stuff, it's gonna like disintegrate. So this was actually a waffle iron inspired. It was Nike shoes were actually waffle iron inspired. So that's all I have for you guys today in today's video. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Comment your guesses down below on what you think tomorrow's video is going to be. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.